because he said, I did it again. I pointed to the empty chair. He said the A.J. Brown market has cooled off. He said teams are calling about Jalen Carter, but it's not like they're excited to trade him and they're more likely to get a contract extension.
But my whole point about the whole Jalen Carter bit, why would that information be out there? Like, that's the part that I don't get. Why is that out there? Why is that being reported by our very own Jeremy Fowler and others? Why is that out there?
Okay, good point. So let me do it this way.
If you're intent on re-signing him, if you have no intent on trading him, why would you let it be known that you're receiving calls on Jalen Carter?
Okay, let's do it this way. So even if you're the Eagles and you're not making outgoing calls, even if your intent is to sign a long-term contract extension with him, and maybe it gets done. What you're saying, and I think it's a very good observation by you, is that it's interesting that teams think they have an opening. In other words, no one's calling the Chiefs for Mahomes.
No.
No one's calling the Packers for Micah Parsons.
No one's calling the Bills for Josh Allen.
And what your analysis of Jalen Carter is, he is arguably going to be the best defensive player in the league, and teams feel like there is an opening for that phone to be dialed for the Eagles about Jalen Carter. Why?
I don't know why.
That's the story here.
That is the story. Because, and I told you this before our show, but when Jalen Carter sets foot on a football field on any given Sunday, he probably believes that he's the best player on that field. And on most days, he's right. He's that good. The only problem is that there is some baggage that comes along with him. We saw what happened at the beginning of the season. We've seen the personal fouls. We've seen the mental lapses where he'll jump off sides and create a penalty at the most inopportune moment. Like this is a guy that gets penalties like no, not none, and they're not penalties because he's being aggressive during the play. They're penalties because he's engaging in shenanigans post-snap. And so you're hoping that you could find a way to corral him because he is just 24 years old sitting here today, soon to be 25. He's a young player that is still ascending. So you want to give yourself every opportunity to see that through and to see what he can become. But now with the Eagles paying Jordan Davis $26 million a year and a new money average on an extension, with them potentially re-signing Jalen Phillips to a big money contract on the eve of free agency, you're wondering, how much money can the Eagles afford to invest on their defensive line? And has it gotten to a point where the shenanigans from Jalen Carter are too much for the coaching staff and the locker room to handle? I don't know.
This resembles another situation retroactively. You're talking about a player that when he's at his best could arguably be the best in the game.
Yes.
You're talking about a player on a team, and they've won with this player.
Yes.
In the other case, not one at all, but one. You're talking about a player that has some stuff that maybe a team doesn't think is fixable, but other teams would definitively find fixable. It sounds like Luka in Dallas is what it sounds like.
Wow.
Now, we didn't know all of this at the time.
Yeah.
But retroactively, it's like, wait, how can you have not found ways to fix that? And your thought is, let's move him versus anything in our power to fix it.
I love the parallel. The only thing that I would think is different with this situation is it was across multiple coaches in Dallas. It was Rick Carlisle and Jason Kidd. With Jalen Carter, it's only been Nick Sirianni. And you're wondering whether or not it's the Eagles having a Nick Sirianni problem more so than a Jalen Carter or an A.J. Brown problem.
Your overall point's an interesting one, which is why do teams feel like there's an opening there? And I don't understand that.
If I was running the team, there wouldn't be.
Would he have been first, Jordan Davis, Jalen Phillips, A.J. Brown would have been after that in terms of all the moves with the Eagles? Would that have been your first move? Take care of that guy and then worry about everything else. Because if you're telling me you think he could be the best defensive player in the sport, why are you not starting with him then? Now, maybe he's the most difficult to figure out because he makes the most.
Well, maybe it's as simple as, hey, we know that having his former teammate Jordan Davis here is probably in our best interest if we intend on keeping Jalen Carter.
Having Big Brother.
So let's make sure that we take care of Big Brother so he can put his arms around little brother as we navigate whatever this contract extension is going to be this summer.
Good point.
It could be that. It could be that as well. So we'll have to see how that goes, especially with everything going on with Nakobe Dean. Like it just feels like if they're gonna keep Jalen Carter, you got to hang on to Jordan Davis.
So we now, to our knowledge, have two what's going on with guys in the NFL as we head into free agency today at noon Eastern that could totally change the landscape of the sport. Jalen Carter would be one if he gets moved. Trent Williams would be the other one, the offensive tackle for the Niners. I know I love him probably more than most. He's much older. But if you put that guy on a go put that guy with Lamar. Move Ronnie Stanley somewhere else on the line, or whatever. Like, the point
Put
is,
him with Mike Vrabel in New England.
Oh my God, how quickly would I buy an offensive lineman jersey? But the point is, those are the two. You don't have a quarterback's name that's out there that's going to be game changing, right? Kyler goes to Minnesota, maybe, but probably not. Those are the guys that Myles Garrett.
You're talking about linemen having quarterback-like impact, is what you're saying.
Exactly right. So keep an eye on those two today. Pat Costello said this for years. I don't understand it. Get rid of your conference tournaments. Because all you do is have the great team all year. If that team loses one game, they're not going to get in the NCAA tournament. Your most deserving team won't get in. And don't give me the whole idea, well, they're never going to do it for money. I've talked to ADs who tell me the small conference ones, they lose money on some of these things for travel. They're not traveling private planes, charter planes like Kentucky would or Duke or North Carolina. They're booking flights online like the rest of us.
It's crazy, man. Craziness. Okay, next.
Number 1.
The Eagles are taking calls on defensive tackle Jalen Carter. The almost 25-year-old finished second in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting back in 2023, was second-team All-Pro in 2024, helping the Eagles to win a Super Bowl, and then made his second consecutive Pro Bowl in 2025. Carter has batted down 13 passes in the past 2 seasons, despite not playing in 6 games this past year due to suspension and shoulder injuries. 13.5 sacks, 25 TFLs since he's come into the league. This weekend, Philly extended former first-round draft pick defensive tackle Jordan Davis to the tune of $26 million a year in a new money average. They are believed to be intent on re-signing outside linebacker edge player Jalen Phillips, who will cost big money in free agency. So on the eve of free agency, the question becomes whether or not the Eagles believe that they will be able to get Jalen Carter under contract and get the most out of Jalen Carter versus flipping him for draft capital to continue to improve their team.
As the Backstreet Boys say, I'll quote them, tell me why. This is a guy that you have said, correct me if I'm wrong, can be the best player in the NFL.
Correct.
Why would you ever get rid of him?
Because you can't rein him in.
What does that mean?
It means Jalen Carter having stupid penalties, post-snap infractions that could potentially lead to fines and suspensions. We saw it at the beginning of last season against the Dallas Cowboys, spitting in Dak Prescott's face before a snap on the field. We saw it at the end of the season, playoff game, the personal foul that he had on Jawan Jennings throwing that touchdown pass. Those are the types of plays that just can't happen. This dude has roughened the passers and unsportsmanlike conducts and face masks and all of these things that are bonehead plays, really. And you just hope that he could get on the other side of those issues. But the fact that they're willing to listen to people calling about him lets you know that they have serious concerns about whether or not they'll be able to corral him. And here's the part that bothers me the most when it comes to Philly. We've had the issues with A.J. Brown pop up. Over the last several years, Nick Sirianni hasn't been able to get his arms around it. The Jalen Carter issue for the last several years, Nick Sirianni hasn't been able to get his arms around it. A part of the job description for a coach is being able to have relationships with your players where you can find a way to motivate them to be better and to not be as problematic. And Nick Sirianni hasn't been able to find that with one of his best players on offense and arguably his best player on defense.
All right, a lot more on that. We need to continue that conversation. NFL free agency begins today, noon Eastern time, with the legal tampering period, which means a lot of job openings across